Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Controversy Monday. With me, I have juniors Avery, Welbourn, and Max Goldberg. The question we're going to be debating today is, does repeating your past creative successes diminish the quality of those successes? This can range from anything from Rick Riordan's spin-off series of the Percy Jackson series, or the new Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them movie. Max, would you like to start?
Yeah, I would. Okay, so the thing about creative work is that's your original thing comes from your own brain. And when you think of it, that's yours, and you have the right to reuse it however much you want because it's like your thing, and and you thought of it. So the problem is that when you do reuse it, a lot of times people will get bored. Like, I know with the Percy Jackson Heroes Olympus series, like everyone loved Percy Jackson, and then Heroes of Olympus was like, what's going on? So like. Yeah, that's the sort of thing. That's the problem with it.
Avery, would you like to interject?
I would very much like to interject. I think there's validity in some continuations. Like, for example, Shrek. Like, the first few movies, very good. But you can tell that it goes very much downhill from there, and it's because humans need diversity, and if you are just repeating the same idea over and over again, even if you put original spin-offs to it, it's gonna be brain barf. That's what it's gonna be. Like, if you have an artist who's making an album, or people who write and direct movies, if you had an album that sounded monotone, or you had a series of movies that was just monotone, it's not helping drive you forward creatively in any way.
I agree with that. The problem with things like Shrek and that sort of thing is that there's like a high public demand for more of that. So then as a creative person, you're thinking, I gotta do more of the same thing now? What do people want from me? And that's why the result is things like Shrek 4, where it's like, is this an alternate dimension of Shrek now? What's going on? This isn't the swamp I know. So that's what happens. So it's not always a good idea to milk your stuff, but I think you're allowed to.
In what way, though, would you say, like, giving into public demand is productive while still creating a good product, but giving the people what they supposedly want?
Oh boy. Well, that's the thing that's very difficult to do. And, like, with Hollywood keeping on pumping out sequels and, like, Disney now making all their live-action adaptations of their old films, it doesn't seem like a very good idea. There are a few examples where it, like, people have been smart about it and done it really well. Like, I know there have been some, like, Disney sequels that have done that well. Or, like, I guess a different example would be, like, Marvel superhero movies. Like, all that takes place in the same universe, and they're all elements of the same story. Like, it's an origin. Like, first they're a normal person, then they get their powers, and then they, like, save the place from people. But that works because the writers are really smart about it, and there's enough, like, interest in the characters to make everyone be like, whoa, that's so cool that happened. And yeah, so when people are really smart about it, then they can be done well.
And actually, off of that, with Spider-Man, they actually fired the most recent Spider-Man because they'd done the origin story, I think, 2 or 3 times before, and Marvel acknowledged that no one cared anymore and they needed to do something new with the character.
Yeah, definitely.
So then, in that case, would you say that, I mean, sellout is kind of a harsh word, but do you think it is fair to, if ever apply it, when do you think it's acceptable to call an artist a sellout after they've given in to the demands of the public?
That's an interesting question. I mean, again, it varies, but sometimes there's a very clear turning point, and then sometimes it's kind of like a slow fizzle out situation. But I think when I'm paying attention to a series, or I'm, like, really devoted to something and I'm interested in it, if I slowly lose interest in that, but I still, like, no, I'll give it another chance. If it gets to the point where you're out of chances and you're like, they've really blown this, it's not grabbing people's attention anymore, it's usually the result of maybe a different writer, it was faulty plot, it didn't have the same pizzazz that it used to have. And I think there are some situations where it's very clear to see that. like even in TV shows, there's like a lot of the same thing as well, where they will, they'll just be very, very clever, and things just fall into place, and you watch it and you're like, what? I didn't know that could happen. And it's just, it keeps you on your feet. If something is failing to keep you on your feet and failing to keep you interested, I think that's the point where you can call it a sellout.
Yeah, I think the term sellout gets thrown around a lot, like, as a creative person. Creativity is super hard, and coming up with original, like, once you have something original, you really want to, like, stick with it and see every angle you can come at it with to get the most out of it, because coming up with a new idea is, like, even harder than that. So, that's why a lot of the time people keep going down the same road with their creative material, and then a lot of, like I said, a lot of people have a tendency to, whenever they see something that's unoriginal or product placement or whatever, like, sell out, and it's not always fair to the people, but I see where it's coming from, because people want to be entertained and that sort of thing. Especially with comedy, it's really hard to keep on coming up with original stuff. Like, I've heard a lot of people talking about SNL, saying that at the beginning it was an amazing show every week, it was fantastic and awesome, and now people are like, it's okay. And that's because they have to keep on coming up with an hour of comedy every single week for, like, the past, it's been over 40 years, so, yeah.
Well, so, I mean, just you brought up the question of Disney and Disney making all the live-action remakes of their movies, and, like, I'll admit it, I saw Cinderella, I'm probably going to end up seeing Beauty and the Beast and Jungle Book, and I'm probably going to see these remakes, but so, in a way, the people, me, that are seeing these movies are kind of feeding into this culture that it's okay to not be original, and it's okay to just kind of keep standing on your old successes, so, in a way, it kind of is our fault. But so if you buy into this idea that, like, we're perpetuating this culture of you can just keep doing the same thing over and over again and be rewarded for it, how would you maybe, like, this is a really rough question, but how would maybe we as a culture encourage creativity and, like, try to foster an environment where, like, new might be better than, like, previous success on originality?
I think the attractiveness of these new remakes is that it looks like a completely different thing. It looks like it's a different genre completely. Like, it's not the Disney movie that you watched when you were a kid. It's like, oh, it's going to be so amazing and full of action, and, like, people are kind of on the path of reminiscing over this almost in some cases. Like, I could see that, where you were, you watched Jungle Book as a kid and you were like, whatever, I'll give this a shot and see what it looks like. But I think in order, like, you shouldn't have to prevent people from doing that, because, you know, you have your own choice to see whatever you want to see. But to prevent that, I think there should be, you know, we should, from an early age, encourage people to explore different things. And so, like, in college, like Emerson, film schools, shout out to Max, just telling people that going on the same idea, however successful you may be, is not always what you should continue to do. Like, you should have a healthy balance of going back to certain things, but you should also be encouraged to explore different things.
Yeah, like you were saying, the reason people go back to see those movies is because all rooted in nostalgia. Like, they remember how great the original Tarzan and Jungle Book was, and then they see, oh, I can now experience this more in a different way, and now I'm an adult, and this is adult themes and stuff. So, it's literally just feeding off nostalgia. And once this might be kind of harsh, but once all the people that first experienced that nostalgia as a kid die off, then people have to come up with new things to keep everyone going.
Shots fired.
Yeah.
But so then, I think I heard a sophomore speech about this. Do you think it's more important to have new, like, is it, if you're repeating yourself but you're still coming out with good work, like, objectively, the Kane Chronicles and the other Rick Riordan series, even though it's a little sad to watch, they're good books. So is it more important to keep coming out with a quality product, or is it more important to experiment and try something new?
It depends on the situation. like, if they just want money, then their safest bet is going with things they already have. But if they want, like, artistic integrity and to make something good, then they'll hopefully try to make something original.
Yeah, there was an example that was popping up in my head was The Hobbit. How they dragged 3 movies out of such a small book. And I know a lot of people have the same opinion about this. They're just like, yeah, no, Legolas was not supposed to be in this part at all. And yet they put him in there. But, like, the idea of trying to drag money out of the process rather than really loving your job and loving what you do and having that creative drive to try other things. Because there are certain things that you can go off of the same idea, but they're very different stories every time. And I think if you're going to repeat yourself, you might as well repeat yourself in such a way where it doesn't feel like you're just doing the same thing.
Yeah, that's the problem with all this, with Hollywood now. It's like, gotta make Harry Potter, the last movie, 2 parts, gotta make The Hobbit 3 parts, gotta get that Huns, and it's like, that's just, it's so frustrating that, because as the public, you just want to see good movies.
Yeah.
You don't want to just feed their money hunger, and I'm frustrated about that.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, it looks like we're out of time. Thank you both so much for coming.
Thank you.
Be sure to cast your vote in the poll attached and join us next week for a whole new debate. Thank you.